Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome, welcome. As people trickle in into the webinar space, feel free to type in the chat where you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear where you are. Feel free to let us know how your fall weather is right now. It's very dreary and rainy here in Portland.
Aw.
Yeah. We're going to give it just a few minutes here. Just let people dial in here. Hi, Brittany.
Hi.
Good to have you here. How's Texas weather? Miami.
Miami, Florida, Richmond. Okay.
Hi,
Pennsylvania.
Joanne. Pretty warm with a slight breeze. That sounds amazing. Would you like to trade places, please? Hi, Jen. Okay. Yes, please keep commenting in the chat. We're going to go ahead and get started. Today, we are going to be talking about occupational burnout, myths and realities in the wellness industry. Just a few housekeeping items. You'll notice that your lines are muted, and that's just because we do send this out as a recording. But that being said, we want to hear from you. We want you to be engaged in this conversation. So feel free to type in questions. Feel free to comment. And you can just use the chat box to do that. And we have a very special guest today. I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Brandy Biglow, who will be speaking on the important topic of occupational burnout. ACHS President Tracy Abel met Dr. Biglow earlier this year when Dr. Biglow presented her graduate work at a national conference. Dr. Biglow shared her own experience as a distance education student and her work as a work-life harmony expert, speaker, and author. Dr. Biglow shared how her own experience with burnout and that of her colleagues fueled her passion for helping others work through burnout and cultivate what she calls a life of harmony, a model she developed through her graduate research. Tracy was immediately inspired by her authenticity, energy, and insight into this important topic. We're thrilled to bring Dr. Biglow's work to the ACHS community and to the wellness profession. Burnout affects more than half of wellness professionals today, and those across other fields as well. Dr. Biglow's framework offers practical, evidence-based strategies for navigating this experience and creating sustainable balance. So please, without further ado, join me in welcoming Dr. Brandy Biglow. And thank you all for joining us today.
All right. Thank you for that, Felicia. I really appreciate it. So let's get started. When people think of occupational burnout, they often picture the big crash, the breakdown in the parking lot, the 2-month leave of absence, the day you just can't get out of bed. But the truth is, occupational burnout really it doesn't start with an explosion. It rarely does. It often begins with whispers, a skip lunch here, an after-hour chart completion there, a late-night email. Those quiet trade-offs, there becomes this creeping sense that joy has been replaced by just getting through the day. Anybody been there? We tell ourselves, I'm fine. Everyone's tired, which is true. I'll slow down later. And that's the myth, that occupational burnout is something you only deal with after you hit the wall, that you have to hit the wall before you're allowed to make a change. But that's not true. But here's what's really going on. You don't have to hit rock bottom to change direction. What if you didn't wait until you were empty to fill your cup? What if you caught the signs early and chose alignment instead of collapse. The power to prevent occupational burnout, it lives in the small choices we make while we still feel okay. So harmony, and we will get into what that is exactly a little bit later, isn't about waiting for the crash. It's about composing your rhythm before the music gets too loud or you start to skip like a CD back in the day. Y'all know what I'm talking about if you're old enough. It's about using choice to design your life. It's the decision to build a life that sustains you before you fall apart. It's choosing alignment over exhaustion, peace over performance, and purpose over pressure. So today, I'm not here to talk about fixing occupational burnout after the fact. I'm here to lay the foundation to help you prevent it altogether. Because you deserve more than survival, you deserve harmony. So as we start this conversation today, I want you to remember occupational burnout doesn't begin with collapse. It begins with quiet disconnection. And that's exactly why we're here, to name it, to understand it, and most importantly, to lay the foundation on how to prevent it. So here's what we're diving into today together. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about me. Felicia told you some of the professional stuff and why I do this work. We'll unpack what occupational burnout really is, how it shows up, and its impact on the healthcare industry and you. Then we'll separate some myths from realities because there's a lot of information out there and it's hurting people. And finally, I'll introduce you to a practical framework I developed called Design Your Life of Harmony, a blueprint to help you design a career and a life that keep you healthy, effective, and inspired. Once done, we'll discuss next steps and open the floor for some Q&A. Y'all ready? Let me see. Give me a thumbs up if we're ready to go in the chat. I can't see you. I can see you, actually. Let's go. All right, got some thumbs up. So here we go. So Felicia told you all a little bit about my professional background. And I'd like to take a moment and share some fun facts. I was a US nomad traveling the US in my 40-foot, 2-bed, 1-bath RV from 2021 to 2025. Isn't she a beauty? Her name is Crucita. She belongs to a good friend now who is enjoying her, and she's having a good time. So now I'm a digital nomad traveling internationally. I'm in the US often visiting family, working, and getting my sauces and popcorn I can't get anywhere else. This is very important to me, y'all. If you know about Tijuana Flats, you know about Tijuana Flats, okay? Something else is I love music, and I can build and install a sound system and even mix live sound. A little studio stuff too, but live music is my jam. I was a mime for 10 years, yes. I love murder mysteries, dogs, spending time with my friends, and I'm a lifelong learner. I'm also learning Spanish. Aprendiendo un poquito más todos los días. How did I do? Probably bad, but that's okay. I promise this is not a dating profile, and I am not looking for you to swipe left or right. I have no idea because I'm married. I just wanted to share a little something about myself. So let's get into my why. As a person who has worked in various industries and studied many more, specializing in healthcare industry because honestly, it's my heart. I know that many organizations intentionally or unintentionally set up their employees to fail because of many different factors. I experienced that in 2020, and not because of COVID. It was because of the unrealistic expectations of the community mental health agency I was working at as a licensed clinical program manager. Let me tell y'all what was happening. So, As the go-between leadership and the team of counselors that I oversaw, the stress was heavy, the workload unmanageable, my values being violated, consistently dealing with moral distress. I truly met the criteria for occupational burnout. I was exhausted mentally and physically. I was cynical, and it was showing. I was doing the minimum. I no longer wanted to give the job my best. And so, with the encouragement of my therapist, yes, I have a therapist, and I recommend everyone have one, or at least a coach to support you in navigating life because it has its challenges. I took a 6-week leave of absence. I did all the things. I got my sleep together. I added exercise to my routine. I ate better. I worked on my emotional regulation, my thought patterns. I did all the things, all the things. I returned to work, and within 4 hours, by lunch, y'all, I knew I had to go. The organization had not changed, and I knew they would not change. So I knew I couldn't stay there. I had done my part, took care of my role. Because of this, I was no longer willing to be abused by the system in place. I had to go or risk returning to the place I was before my leave. So I planned my exit. I returned to work in August, and I left by November. After that experience, I wanted to support people in making choices about their work outside of life, a life to bring them joy, where they are thriving and not merely surviving. Many of us plan our lives around work, and why not? We spend 8 to 12 hours a day there, which makes sense. But I want to support people in designing a life of harmony, a life they don't need a vacation from, a life that is built around you and not the work you do, a life where you feel fulfilled. So let's get into the content. What exactly is occupational burnout? The definition I'm about to share with you is from the World Health Organization. This is the same organization that writes the ICD codes. You guys are familiar with this. It was developed in 2019 using the research of Christina Maslach and colleagues. The results of their research are the golden standard by which all of the research around occupational burnout is currently compared. Even the emergence of caregiver burnout, which some of you may have heard of, has its foundation in their research. Moving forward, I will only say burnout every now and then, but know that I'm talking about occupational burnout only. All right? So here we go. Here is the definition. Burnout is a syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. It is included in the 11th revision of the International Classification of Diseases, ICD-11, as an occupational phenomenon. It is not classified as a medical condition. Burnout refers specifically to the phenomenon in the occupational context and should not be applied to describe experiences in other areas of life, though it has become very trendy to do so. Also note in several countries, they have identified it as a mental health disorder, but not in the United States. However, you can get a diagnosis, as I did, from a medical provider or a mental health clinician. It is helpful in identifying the best treatment for you. It includes 3 domains: reduced professional efficacy, negativity or cynicism about your work, and emotional exhaustion. And that's the key, the emotional exhaustion. Feeling 2 of these 3 things constitute burnout. Otherwise, you would more likely meet criteria for the other profiles, which is overextended, ineffective, or disengaged. Burnout is a combination of when the work environment does not match with the individual. It is a response to chronic, long-lasting, high-frequency stress. It is not either or, it's and. It's the work environment and the person. This is key. Okay, so here are some symptoms of burnout. Impatience with coworkers or clients, lack of interest, isolation, lack of concentration, increased accidents or mistakes at work, irritability at home and work, anxiety, and increased substance use. Some more, I got more, y'all. Feeling overwhelmed, depression, forgetfulness, frequent illness or headaches, chronic fatigue, hitting that snooze button. You just can't get out of the bed. Increased gastro issues. This is a big one. Changes in appetite, increased blood pressure, and so much more. There are over 60, and there could be more than that. So let me bring this home for you. I have a friend and colleague who was struggling with vertigo. So much so, it significantly impacted her work. She was calling out a lot. She felt conflicted because she felt she was not properly supporting her clients. We talked a lot about what could be causing her symptoms. She knew it was the stress of the job. I encouraged her to look at her life and see what needed to change. Unfortunately, that change ended up being leaving the organization. And soon after, guess what? Her symptoms subsided. Another story. I had another coworker who was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. She knew it was mostly work stress related. She planned her exit from the organization, and within months, the symptoms of UC subsided. She is able to manage those flare-ups based on diet, and she does not need medication. This is just two stories about how work can literally make you sick. In Japan, they created words for it because people were completing suicide because of workplace stress. Now, they have since made some changes to their laws to better support their employees. And in California, they got something going on like that as well. So let's talk about the components of burnout, right? Maslach and Leaders Research have identified 6 different components, or what they call mismatches, that can lead to burnout. Poor alignment in any of these can lead to burnout. Burnout is an interactive term describing how a person interacts with their work. And as we go over these, know that they can overlap. So first up we have is workload. We all know about workload. This is about the work demands and the resources to complete your work, as well as the time frame. Most people are okay with occasional long hours, but it becomes a mismatch when this becomes chronic. An example of a mismatch is high workload and low resources. Next up is values. This is providing meaning in your work. A mismatch occurs when you value something that your company does not, or there are ethical conflicts and moral dilemmas. When this is mismatched, many refer to it as the erosion of the soul. This happened a lot during COVID when people had to choose between who got respirators and who didn't, and things of that nature. People leave high-paying jobs with excellent benefits because of this mismatch. Next up, we have fairness. Fairness is about being fair and equitable treatment. Getting credit for your work is an example of fairness. Others getting praise and not you, or someone taking credit for your work, is a mismatch. That one's pretty easy, pretty simple. Up next is control. Control is about how much autonomy or say in decisions you have with your work. A mismatch could be being micromanaged or quickly shifting policies without having conversations with employees. You just get a memo one day and boom, you got to do something different, and nobody tells you the why or anything like that. Rewards refer to social recognition and positive feedback about your work. A mismatch would be intrinsic or extrinsic rewards that aren't matching your effort or is not congruent to what you like. A small reward mismatch would be getting a gift card to Starbucks, but you actually don't drink coffee. And that's me. So that's why I put that in there. And last is community. This is about the social culture of the workplace. This one is very significant. Many people can handle high workloads and even lower autonomy. But if the workplace is toxic, it has a great impact. If it's overly competitive or backstabbing or negative with lots of gossiping, people struggle. Or if you don't know anyone or have low support or poor communication with your peers or your leaders, many people struggle in this component. This one is tricky because people like me will stay for community even though most or all other components are mismatched. So in summary, workload and control is about the work. Rewards and community is about the social aspect of work. Fairness and values is about the moral aspect of work, right? So these areas give you 6 perspectives regarding what could be causing burnout. The more mismatches, the more likely you are heading towards or to be experiencing burnout. Can anybody relate? Put a thumbs up in the chat or a thumbs down in the chat if you are experiencing any mismatches at your place of employment. I see it. I see you going on. Okay. All right. Thank y'all for sharing. I appreciate the engagement. I'm just saying. All right. So in addition to those, here are some other contributors to occupational burnout. Number 1, relationship and activities outside work. Leadership style and response. Technology. I'm sure we've all struggled with this one. Organizational structure, values, and culture. Food and or housing insecurity. This was one surprising finding in my research that I was like, whoa, I found it interesting. Trauma, biases, and discrimination, intersectionality, and government and healthcare policy and procedures. Put a thumbs up in the chat if you agree these things do contribute. And I'm gonna take a second to pause here to have you put something in the chat of what you think could be contributing to burnout, because these 8 are just the tip of the iceberg. So let me see. I got some thumbs up, and I'm gonna go over here and see what I can see. All right, here we go. Okay, no worries. Caring for your dad, yes, that is exactly can do that. That's part of that intersectionality. And there's actually a theory on burnout that's coming out called caregiver burnout that talks exactly about that. If you do an AI search or a Google search, you'll be able to find some things there, and they have some really good strategies that might be helpful to you. Ah, yes, working with cancer patients. That's a big one, Margaret. Yep, I see it. Okay, thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Okay, so let's bring this together. Let's switch on over back over here. All right, okay. So let's bring this together and talk about the profiles. Maslach and Leader identified 5 profiles to describe the path of occupational burnout. The path is not linear. You can go forwards and you can go backwards. And you can have behavior associated with one or more profiles. The point here is to know what they are. When you know where you are, you can identify the most appropriate strategies to move out of it and become engaged again. They can be described as stages on a continuum where you slide back and forth. If you think about autism in the spectrum, it's similar to that conceptualization. This is a very brief overview of the profiles. If you are seeking additional information, check out their work. They do have a good review of them in the book called The Burnout Challenge, and you can get them anywhere books are sold. So the first one is engaged. This is the profile where we all want to start. We want to be here. You are energized. You enjoy your work. You are engaging with it. You are comfortable with your colleagues. You feel supported. All the things are appropriate. You are rested. Your mind, your body, your spirit, everything is aligned. It's great to be here. However, sometimes it doesn't last, and we end up in the extended profile. This is the most common profile. Many people live here. Sometimes I live here because of my schedule and the things I feel I need to get done in a certain period of time. So it's okay if this happens sometimes. Think of end of the fiscal year stuff, or when you have to squeeze in those yearly trainings and evaluations between seeing patients and doing your paperwork and all that stuff, but it's for a short period of time. To meet criteria for this profile is because the feeling of being overextended or overwhelmed has lasted more than 4 to 6 months, give or take. This is where you have 60 hours of work, but 40 hours to get it done. Or you have the workload of 3 people for one because someone was fired or the position hasn't been filled for one reason or another, and now you're responsible for all of these things. This can also happen due to slow, antiquated workflows, processes, and duplicated policies that make your work take longer than it should. I mentioned that one because I've seen that. Up next is ineffective. This one can get you into trouble or written up at work because you are making errors. You are missing deadlines. Your work is sloppy, or you're not meeting expectations. People here do the minimum and nothing more when before they were going above and beyond. This is the people who are like, I'm just collecting a check. They are barely making it. This can relate to what some are calling quiet cracking. However, in reality, I would say that it's pretty loud. Next is the disengaged profile. This can be what they're calling these days quiet quitting. This is where you show up, and similar to the ineffective profile, you're doing the least to get the job done. You may be becoming cynical or negative about the workplace. You may be having conflicts with your coworkers and your supervisor. You may be using up all your PTO and your sick time and more time, even if you're not getting paid for it. And this is called absenteeism. Or you could be scrolling through your phone, taking long trips to the bathroom, and things like that instead of doing your work. And that's called presenteeism. Basically, you are no longer engaged with the work. Finally, is burnout. This is the culmination of a lot of things. You can go through all the profiles or just one. For example, I hovered and overextended for years, if I'm being honest. Working as a teacher and then in the healthcare industry, it's almost an expectation that you be overextended because there's not enough of us, and the work expectations, they are a lot. I was never really ineffective because I was aware of my struggles. At the same time, I did nothing early. I was always right at the deadline. This is where many high achievers are. They are doing the things. They are suffering to get it done because they refuse to not get it done. As a result, they won't see themselves as ineffective per se, but really they are, because they are not showing up as their best version. Okay, going back to me. I did begin to disengage. I was losing my sense of compassion and empathy. I was angry and I felt stuck. So I knew I was in trouble because, y'all, I love what I do. I do it for free. I really would. If I had the means, the financial means to care for myself and my family, but I don't, so I gotta get paid. So back to the description of occupational burnout. In addition to the physical exhaustion, you feel the mental and the emotional exhaustion. You just can't do it. Some people reach adrenal fatigue or are diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome because they have beat their body up so much that it is given out. Your mind takes a beating too. You struggle with connecting with others. You isolate more because you just don't have the emotional or mental capacity even for a short conversation. You start being angry. You have angry outbursts. You have an attitude. You're irritable. It actually mirrors depression. So burnout can look like a lot of things, right? Think back to some of the symptoms that I gave earlier. The key is that burnout manifests in your body and your mind. So it takes some thinking and some assessing to know if it's burnout or something else. If you rule out family stuff, home stuff, and find yourself with understanding and knowing your work environment is the cause of your symptoms, you are in burnout. Remember, burnout is active. It is about how you are interacting with your work environment. Okay, so now that we have a clear conceptualization of what burnout is, let me tell you about its impact on the healthcare industry. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of research focused on the healthcare industry as it relates to burnout. To be clear, burnout was ravaging the healthcare industry long before COVID, but it did put a spotlight on the situation. These are just 8 stats related to burnout. There are literally thousands. At the end of the day, the issue is clear. Occupational burnout is costing the healthcare industry a lot, and not just money. First, burnout is estimated to cost the healthcare system at least $4.6 billion with a B, billion dollars annually due to absenteeism and leaves of absences, meaning people who are not at work. It's also costing presenteeism, which is people who are at work but not really working, and medical errors and more. So people are getting sued and things of that nature. 91% of nurses surveyed reported symptoms of burnout. 79.9% of other healthcare workers also report suffering from occupational burnout. Thousands of providers are leaving the field every year, leading to a crisis of providers. People who love what they do can no longer take the system and they leave. This has led to increased turnover. Research shows thousands of healthcare providers are leaving the field within 2 years of entering. They don't even stay long enough to be licensed or certified. There is decreased job satisfaction. People are not liking what they do. There is decreased effectiveness, decreased efficiency, and decreased productivity. And there is decreased patient satisfaction and treatment outcomes. Patients are hurting because providers are not able to do all they can do to support them in being healthy because they themselves are not healthy and they just can't do it. Okay, so we've defined occupational burnout. I've given you a few facts. So let's talk about some myths and realities. I know this is what y'all are here for. And there are a lot of them. I have chosen these 5 because they are truly insidious and have people in shame and believing they are the problem when they are not. So, myth number 1, burnout is the responsibility of the individual to prevent, manage, and overcome. When you look at most approaches to preventing, managing, and overcoming burnout, and I have looked at over 25, you will notice there is this underlying, sometimes subtle, sometimes not subtle, blame, and finger pointing towards the individual. This is simply not true. This is where shame and blame come in. And this one makes me the angriest because people who really want to do this work and people who really want to serve feel shame and they don't get help and then they end up making themselves sick. The reality is, burnout is a war that must be won on two fronts. The people, that's you and me, having to do our part, and the organization doing their part. Occupational burnout manifests in the individual, yes, but similar to many systemic issues, the root cause lays with more than just the individual. It lays in the system itself. Research has proven over and over again the major leading causes to burnout are actually organizational factors. So y'all are not to blame. Myth number 2, burnout only happens to weak or unmotivated people. Though there are individual risk factors such as personal trauma, mental health disorders, gender, time in the industry, type of work, etc., they are not the majority factors contributing to occupational burnout. Why? Because these can be mitigated effectively through therapy, coaching, skills training, and a plethora of other means. The reality is, like I said, burnout is not your fault. If y'all get nothing from this training today, I want you to remember that. Burnout often affects high achievers, the most who care deeply, overcommit, and push through no matter what. Returning to the profiles, many people will fall into the overextended profile because before they reach burnout. This happens because many high achievers lack boundaries around caring for their physical, mental, social, and emotional well-being. Myth number 3, and I have seen this a lot. Self-care will heal your burnout when you do it consistently. I'm gonna move on. The reality is you cannot self-care your way out of a work environment you are mismatched with. Self-care is absolutely necessary to mitigate and prevent burnout, but you can do all the things like I did and still be headed for burnout if you work in an environment that doesn't do its part to fix systems, policies, technologies, etc., that cause chronic stress. Also notice I didn't say toxic. Many workplaces are not toxic. They just don't match who you are. Myth number 4. If you love your job, you can't get burned out. I wish that was true. The reality is, loving your work does not protect you from burnout. It can actually make it worse because you are more likely to overextend yourself and ignore the warning signs. Anybody? So this one was me. Let me know in the chat. Anybody? Anybody feeling this one right here? This one, it really does speak to me because I have to be careful. I have to make sure that I take care of myself so that I can show up the best way that I can for the people that I'm serving and supporting. If you remember, my coworkers both love what they did and do. However, because of that love, they overcommitted, had poor boundaries, and poor self-care routines that led to the physical manifestation of serious illness. If you ask them today, they will probably tell you, yep, I was dealing with occupational burnout. Number 5, this one is new. Taking mental health days and/or a long vacation will cure your burnout. Sorry for the sarcasm. It's just, this one really annoys me because it's not true. In reality, The issue is that many organizations highlight this as their way to support their employees. And it is a start, but there's so much more that can and must be done to stop occupational burnout. In reality, a break might help you cope, but it doesn't fix the root cause. Burnout will return if the underlying issues at work or in your habits aren't addressed. This is a reality that hit me hard. When I got over blaming myself and feeling ashamed and being in denial, and I did my part, and I saw that the organization had not and would not do theirs, I knew I had to go. If I stayed, I would lose all my progress and end up in the same boat that I was in. So I made a decision that day to plan my exit, and I did. Truth be told, that is not the answer for everyone. At the same time, sometimes it is. And people are not willing to admit it for a variety of reasons, and that's okay. There are so many myths related to who, what, and how occupational burnout develops. And that leads to ineffective practices that can often make people worse. Self-care is part of the cure, but alone, it is ineffective, it is inefficient, and it can leave a person thinking they are the problem when in fact, they are not. So let's switch things up a little bit. This is the part where we stop talking about the problem and we start building the solution. Allow me to introduce you to a framework I developed based on my experience and science. It's called Design Your Life of Harmony. Harmony isn't just a nice word, although I like it. It's a practical roadmap to protect your head, your heart, and your health while still showing up fully for the people you serve. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the framework. For a deeper dive, you can reach out to me and I will gladly provide more information. I'm open like that. So let's get into it. H, it stands for take care of your health, not just your physical health, but your mental, emotional, social, and even financial health. That's another big contributor to burnout that I found in my research. A stands for adopting an abundance mindset. We work in an industry that struggles to provide everything we need to support our clients or our patients. This is about knowing what you can do and being a resource. It combats helplessness and hopelessness. You are fully aware of the deficits, but you seek to find solutions. This is an intentional and daily practice. R, it stands for building resilience. This is about bouncing back when you have tough days. Here, you improve your emotional regulation. You think about what you're thinking about, and you make changes if necessary. The same goes for habits that no longer serve you. Many times we have to unlearn and relearn skills to support us in being successful. Even some habits we may have picked up in our training and our practicums. Been there, done that. M stands for practicing mindfulness. This is about being present in your daily life. Not too much focus on the past, not too much focus on the future. This is also about finding the goodness, listening to yourself and others. Being mindful improves wisdom, which is about using your knowledge and applying it effectively in the right time and in the right situation. Oh, this is one of my favorites, being objective. Objectivity is essential in helping you be clear and focusing on what's in your control as you engage with others, whether at work, in your home, or in your community. Be clear on your goals and what you want to do. It will help you say yes to things you want to do and no to the things you don't. and do so without guilt or shame because your no's are because those things or people don't align with your goals or your values. N stands for nurturing your environment. When most people get stressed, they tend to take their frustrations out on other people or they isolate. It is important to build community and connection to lean on when you have tough days. Take time to spend with friends, family, coworkers if you like them, neighbors if you like them, etc. We are social creatures and we need each other to not just survive, but to thrive. And last, the Y stands for choosing yourself with intention. We got into this field to serve and support. Many of us do this at the expense of our own mental, physical, and emotional health. Am I talking to somebody, can I get an amen? When you choose yourself with intention, it allows you to show up as your best self. This in turn allows you to serve and support others in a way you intended. I got a couple of amens. You listen better, you will provide better service, you are more creative in finding solutions, you care more, are compassionate, are empathetic, and so much more. It is also about remembering who you are beyond the role that you play at work and being intentional about caring for yourself as you care for others. Okay, so we're about to land this plane. So let's review. We define occupational burnout according to the World Health Organization, based on the research of Christina Maslach and her colleagues, beginning, believe it or not, in 1974. I wasn't even born yet, but that's okay. I provided some of the more common symptoms associated with people heading towards or dealing with occupational burnout. I provided the components, the profiles, and some additional factors that contribute to occupational burnout. Then we talked about some of the impacts of occupational burnout on the healthcare industry and you. I provided 5 myths and realities regarding occupational burnout. Trust, there are many, many more. I'd be open to a conversation. Finally, I provided a brief overview of the Design Your Life of Harmony framework. This is my partial answer to my mission of supporting the world in achieving work-life harmony, one professional, leader, business owner, entrepreneur, and organization at a time. It's partial because the framework focuses on how the individual can mitigate their personal risk factors that can lead to burnout. A second framework that focuses on the organizational role is coming in 2026. Okay, so what's next? I want to give you some final thoughts. When you think of harmony, think of music. Not one perfect note, but many notes blending together, sometimes softly, sometimes powerfully, to create something beautiful. Your life works the same way. Your health, your purpose, your relationships, your dreams, each one is an instrument in your personal sympathy. And let's be honest, sometimes the rhythm gets off. Sometimes the tempo speeds up so much that you can't even hear the melody. You can't hear the words anymore. Sometimes you're just trying to keep up with the beat, like a really fast salsa song. It's really hard to do. That's where burnout hides, in the noise between the notes, or sometimes in the quiet. It's in the moments when you forget that you were never meant to live this life alone, that you do have support, that you can lean into that support. Here's the thing about harmony. It's not about perfection, y'all. It's about alignment. It's what happens when every part of you, your health, your purpose, your energy, your values are finally playing the same tune. And that's what Design Your Life for Harmony is all about. It's not just a framework, it's a grassroots movement. It's a way to design a life where success and well-being don't compete, they collaborate. Burnout isn't failure, it's feedback. It's your body, your mind, your heart saying, this ain't working. We got to make a change. We got to find a new way of doing things. And remember, you don't have to wait to hit the wall. You don't have to hit rock bottom to start composing your next movement. Start small. Maybe taking a lunch break you used to skip. Maybe saying no when your plate is full. Maybe just giving yourself permission to breathe. Because harmony isn't found by accident. It's composed one intentional note at a time. So as you click away from today, I want you to remember this. You are not just a player in your story. You are the conductor. You hold the baton. You get to decide when the music swells and when it rests. And the world, it doesn't need you to play louder. It needs you to play in harmony. Again, with your values, your purpose, and yourself. Your next movement can start right now. And I promise you, once you find that rhythm, it sounds like freedom. For real, y'all. So what's next? We want to hear from you. Would you be interested in a full course where we would dive deeper into more content such as personal, protective, and risk factors, organizational factors, contributing factors like technology and leadership styles, assessment, additional frameworks, and proven strategies? We will fully explore the problem and spend even more time on the solutions, regardless of the position that you hold. Okay, so that's all that I have for y'all today. This is how you can reach out to ACHS. This is all the stuff. They got Pinterest, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And if you want to reach out to me, this is how you can reach out to me. And we have about 7 minutes for questions. So I will give it back to Felicia and we'll see what we got.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Biglow. That was amazing. Amazing. So much engagement in the chat too. I think everyone just got so much out of this. I took away so much from this. And I know we had some questions in the chat about how to contact you. So those that want to get in touch, please do. And yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here and sharing your story and all of these wonderful words of wisdom with us.
Okay. So from the chat, I wanted to discuss something that a couple people talked about, feeling guilty for having downtime, right? So that's a social construct, y'all. It's a social construct because in the United States, specifically in our country, it's about grind, 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 grind. However, rest is one of the most powerful things that you can do. It allows your body to detoxify. It allows your mind to reset. So if you're feeling guilty about resting, I want you to think about, where does that thought come from? Who told you you couldn't rest? Did somebody call you lazy? And I want you to think about that, and I want you to reframe that. And I want you to tell yourself, self, we need to rest. We need to rest so we show up as our best self. Because if you don't rest, you literally die. Like, people who think that they can operate on 4 or 5 hours of sleep, they literally die up to 10 years early. Why? Because their body is not detoxifying, right? And just do a little experiment. Just take an extra rest or a walk and see how you feel afterwards. okay? I don't want you to feel like you can't rest, because here's the thing. If you don't rest, your body will force you. It really will. Those people who come around with adrenal fatigue or chronic fatigue syndrome, it's because they didn't listen to those early signs and their body said, okay, bet, boom. And it drained them of all their adrenals and everything like that. And now they were sick, so sick that they can't even get out of bed. So that one's a hard one. Okay. Thank you, Margaret. I look forward to you reaching out. Okay. So, and then Gift Parker said that you quit your job because you chose peace over stress. I love that. Do your own thing. And somebody was able to relate with the ineffective profile. So does anybody have any particular questions before we sign off for today? We got about 4 minutes, or that's okay. You can reach out to me if you think of something. You guys have my email address.
Dr. Biglow, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
How would you recommend if somebody is feeling really like they have a lack of resources or are not getting what they need and this is contributing to burnout in their organization, how can they advocate for themselves? Like what steps would you take if you want to stay within the organization but you feel like you need a lot more resources, what are some things that have worked for you?
So a lot of times you start with your most immediate supervisor, right? And you're saying, hey, this is where I am. Can you help me? And one of the biggest issues with the guilt that middle management feels is that their hands are tied because their senior leadership will not provide the resources that are available. So then it's a conversation of who can you go to see who is willing to help support you. And sometimes they don't know. That's when you call me or one of my buddies, because I have some friends, right? So not just me, I know a couple people. So if I'm not available, we can call some other people to help figure out what can you do. Because I'll tell you a quick story. I know we got like 2 minutes left. There was a company and they were like, "Ooh, we're gonna put in a game room in the facility because we think that our employees would like to play games." And for the first couple of months, it was great. They took their breaks, da 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 da. But with workload, more and more, they stopped going to that place. What ended up happening, you know what they wanted fixed? The copy machine. The copy machine that kept breaking, that every week they had to call a new tech out to fix it, that slowed them down. And so sometimes it really is just a conversation with people and saying, hey, how can I support you? And believe it or not, it could be something as simple as, hey, can I wear headphones? Can I put a do not disturb sign on my door because people keep coming in and out interrupting me so that I can get my work done? It can be very simple things. But sometimes the higher ups, they're like, I don't know what to do. And sometimes it's those very simple things. And if you know yourself and you have self-awareness, you can also say, hey, can I try this? Even though I know it's not policy or procedure, can I try this and see if it works for me, right? Can we give it a shot? Because policies and procedures are written for, whatever reason they're written for, but they can also be antiquated and they can also be not helpful. And so it's also an opportunity to say, hey, can we do a plan, do, study, act kind of cycle to see if something can actually work for us? So it's about communication and asking.
Thank you. It's really
You're
helpful.
welcome. Yeah, send me an email. We can talk about it.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. So, all right. All right. Okay. So I put my email in the chat because somebody asked about how an employer can contact me for training. You can just reach out to me email and I'll respond to you within 24 to 48 hours. I do have pretty good work-life harmony. So if you email over me over the weekend, I might get back to you like on Monday, just to be honest. All right. I think that concludes our time. Boop, boop, boop. Thank y'all,
Thank you
everybody.
so much.